Hi viewers and welcome to the channel, and today we're looking at TechDraw and around roughness and surface symbols and creating those yourself and get them into this image here. So I've got this image and these roughness symbols in here are actually editable. So I've created these and you can edit them. So if I come in here and you can see I've got the symbols in here and these symbols are sitting here and I can come into them and I can change these to whatever I want. You have to bear with me because I'm not 100% up to date with my surfacing symbols. It's been a while since I've done this. Something like that, and they will get updated onto our roughness symbol on there. And we can change the scale also to whatever we want. I hit edit refresh, those would have changed on there. So we've got these individual ones and we can just import these, and here we go. And as you can see, that's our symbol, and editable part here we can actually change the symbols, different parts in here. So I can add like to number 5, hand grinding for example. We'll have a texture of X for crosshatch, and we can just get rid of the others if we so desire, like so, and hit OK. And then when we click off of that, we've got our symbol all ready to scale to wherever we want and place in our correct placement. I have to do a bit of edit refresh, but we can place that in there. And then when it's printed, let's do a print preview on here. You can see that our symbols are coming out on our diagram. It's obviously not just those symbols that we're constrained to. We can place whatever symbols, we can place welding symbols in here, CNC symbols, whatever symbols you want to create. And we're going to be going into this and how to create these symbols and how to make those symbols editable in a few moments. If you like this video, please hit a like and also subscribe to the channel. I also have a Ko-Fi site where you can actually donate to my contributions to the community, and that's at ko-fi.com/MANG0. For this tutorial we'll need some other software installed, and that will be either a vector-based graphics package or a paint package that can actually deal with vector-based images. Now these vector-based images are SVGs, and one of the best, in my opinion, packages to use for that is the free package called Inkscape. This is totally free and can be found on the web and can be installed for Ubuntu, Mac, Windows, whatever you want. And it's, in my opinion, just as good as Adobe Illustrator, if not better, because you don't have to pay the premium, you don't have to pay a subscription, and once you download it, it's installed and you can do what you want with it. So how does this work? Well, it's actually quite basic. We create an SVG vector-based graphic like this. That's why we're using Inkscape. We create an image on here. We add text to this image. So as you can see, I added E, D, B, A, and C for the roughness symbols, which I've gone over to here and just genned up on there. It's been a long time since I've done this. I used to do this back in college. I cannot remember the symbols as ISO standards, and I'm way out of date of understanding these symbols and what the new symbols are if they've ever changed. So I've gone for this one or something similar. This one I've actually got open on there, so we've got it open rather than closed here, and I've added the passband for a second and sequential parameters, multiple parameters required for B, the machining method for C, so put grinding or CNC up here. D is the crease and its direction, so we've got different creases here, the equals, the up tack, the X, the M, the C or the R there. You may, depending on how good your Unicode key entry is, then this up tack, you may want to actually add this into a symbol and do this as a secondary symbol, because there's certain key presses that you have to type in to get this, and I can't remember what they are because I don't know all the character symbols in there, so you may want to do this separate. And for these symbols up here, you may want to do these separate as well. But basically I've just made a simple copy of this one, but with it opened. And that sits in my Inkscape. And I've created a very small image in here. I mean, this image is only 80 by 40, but it's because it's vector graphics, it scales and everything scales with it. So if we go and have a look at this in text format, we can see what's actually happened inside here and how this is set up. Now, because it's SVG, it's actually XML based, so everything's defined as text, and we can see that if I go to where it's been kept, so surface in finished SVG. Now if I open up a text editor, and drop that file in my text editor, you'll see how the file's been made up. So it's XML based, and to make FreeCAD know about this file and that it's editable, we add a namespace in the top, and also we had certain properties to the text area. So this is the text area here, this is text area for D, and there's a property in there called FreeCAD Editable. And what I'm going to do is make this file or a similar file from scratch so you can actually see how this works. I'm going to start with a very simple file first, and I'm going to work up from that. So let's go into our Inkscape, and I'll create a new file. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to close those windows down so we know what options to pick to get these windows open. And I'm going to first change the size of my document. So I'm going to go down to the properties, and I've got the width and height here. And if I move this to the side, if I can, let's move this over here. When we change the height, you'll notice that the height of the document will also change. So I'm going to go for 100 by 100. So 100 millimeters by 100 millimeters. Look at the units. It's best to work in millimeters or inches or whatever your desired unit is, but keep away from pixels because we're doing CAD, so we're working in millimeters or inches rather than pixels. So keep away from that. So it's best to work in millimeters or inches. So that's the size done, so 100 by 100. We can scale this, so there's no problems there. And if we simply add something like say I was creating something in here like a circle, and I wanted some text inside that circle. So let's just size this to our document. And I'm going to place some text inside this circle, and this is going to be, say, some kind of symbol that I want to use. And the text I'm going to place in there is just an X. That's a bit small at the moment, so that's increased the text size. Go for 40, you can go bigger than that. 72. 144, there we go, 144, and place that in the center. So we're going to pretend that's our surfacing symbol. Let's save this as something, and I'm going to go into my downloads. I've got surfacing symbol there. I'm just going to call this test symbol. So once we've got our SVG done, then we've got to edit it via a text editor to place in some extra XML properties in there. Now in Inkscape we do have an XML editor. So we go out to Edit and XML Editor. Then from here we should be able to change some of the properties. You can see it's come up on the right hand side here. And by clicking on the individual parts, we can see what they are. Let's see if we can give ourselves a bit more room to work with this. So the first one, I want to come into the SVG part here. And we can see we've got height, ID, etc, etc. I want to set attribute in here. Now if we come into our file that I was showing, we can see this XML namespace, and this is the one we want. There's also a wiki on FreeCAD which explains these elements in a bit more detail. So for instance, I need this XML namespace in here to allow for FreeCAD to enable the editable boxes. So let's take that. So XML namespace FreeCAD. Take a copy of that. Come back over to Inkscape and we'll paste that in. Underneath is the value that we add. So we've got our namespace in there. So HTTP, go on / www.freecadweb.org/wiki/index.php !title equals svg_namespace. So we set that. You can see something's been set in there, so if we scroll down, you can see the XML namespace has been set. Now we've added the namespace, we need to add a attribute to the text node. Now there's a bit of a problem with the wiki with this one, because if we look at the wiki, this is not the correct item to add. It might have been in previous versions, but in 0.19 it definitely isn't. If you add this attribute, then you'll receive an error. So I'm going to show you the correct attribute to add. So if we come into our SVG, we can see we've got this layer 1 here. Now the good thing about this, if we go to Objects and Objects, then we can see with the layer where these objects lay. So we've got a layer, we've got text 994, and that's got a path there and a text there. So in that layer you'll see text 994 and a path, and that should be reflected in the XML as well. So let's close that and go back to our XML. So you can see we've got a layer, open it up, we have a path which is the ellipse and text 994. Going back to the objects and just bring this back, and when we click on here you can see we've got text 994 and that's highlighted that one. So that is the same as the XML, and we've got the same when we click on these. You can see the parts of the image are being highlighted depending on what we click on. So that text is the one we want. Now we don't want this FreeCAD uppercase editable uppercase text on there. It's a different command, and the command that we want command that we want is FreeCAD Editable, and we can use whatever we want to call that in there. So I just can call this X text or something similar, and we set that. And what I'm going to do is now save this. So file, save as, use our test symbol, I'll replace that. Obviously you can save it whatever file you want. And here's our TechDraw. So I'm going to insert that symbol now. So we're going to use the insert symbol from an SVG file, or go to TechDraw and down to insert SVG symbol. Double click our test symbol, and there's our test symbol. It's quite big at the moment, but we can use the scaling if we so desire. So I'm going to halve that size at least. May have to go to edit, refresh on there. So that's in, and come down to our editable on our data, and you can see X is there. Just click on those two dots at the bottom there and change this to whatever you want. So I'm going to change it to DS and OK that. When we click off, that will change the text in there. We may need to change the placement of the text to move it over. That's quite easily done, and we can change this to whatever we want. So for example, I'm just going to put D in there. If it doesn't appear, just go to edit, refresh, and that's it. If we want multiple text parts in there, then because we've already got that entry in there and the attributes for that text, so the FreeCAD attributes, if we can find them, yeah, FreeCAD Editable. Then what we can do is just take that, do a copy on the text, Control V, and that will copy those attributes as well. So you can see we've got the attributes there for that one and the attributes for this one, and we can change the text in here. So something like D and highlight it, change the size if we so desire. So I'm going to go to something like that. Place that up in the top right hand corner there. See that we've still got the attribute there, the FreeCAD Editable. When I save this, go back to my TechDraw, I'll see that symbol won't update. As soon as I stick a new symbol in, you can see we've got the symbol with a D at the top, and we've got two editable texts here. So I can put whatever I want on here. Yeah, okay. Click on something else, and we've got our text coming up. Obviously we need places in a bit more of a better position, but you get the idea of how we can actually create symbols in there. Obviously we can use a text editor if we so desired. So for instance here, let's just reload this. This is my test symbol, and you can see we've got, if we come down, we've got our FreeCAD Editable here, and the X text with the T-span and the D in there, and we should have our X somewhere as well, and the FreeCAD Editable. And at the top we have our, under SVG, we've got our namespace that's pointing to the FreeCAD wiki. So we could use the text editor to edit those if we so desire. But that's how to make your own surfacing symbols, or any symbols that you want to add to FreeCAD, and place them in there. I am going to do another video where I create a number of symbols and make a menu system up in Python where we can add those straight in rather than going off and loading them from the disk and placing them onto the screen. So we'll have a nice little bar up here with the symbols in, and that will be coming up in one of the tutorials at a later date. Okay, so I hope that helps, and I'll see you again soon. If you like what you're seeing, please subscribe to my site, and also I have a Ko-Fi site where you can actually donate a few pence or a few pounds, dollars, or whatever your currency is, and that's at ko-fi.com/mang0, and there you'll be able to help me fund my site, and all the money that I actually get from any funds will actually get pushed back into the channel. Thanks a lot for watching and subscribing. I'll see you next time.